Yeah, because of the biodiesel numbers and bean oil being limit up. That is the good news. So that's what can a guy expect out of that market. Then we'll talk about how it could pull up with other grains, eventually, and need a catalyst for wheat and corn. But options are really cheap. There's lots to talk about, actually.
Welcome to Hedge Heads, where hosts Jon and Ryan Tungseth discuss commodity markets, hedging, and anything related to trading futures. Remember, the risk of loss in trading commodity interests can be substantial. These are opinions only and not trading advice. While no one knows where the market's going, they're not afraid to share some ideas.
Well, John, we got a special episode today as I travel across the state of Minnesota, heading over to Duluth. And I was, don't tell anyone, but I did have I got my computer open, I got the numbers up, and I thought, geez, corn looks good. And then I realized that my computer had tipped over and it was upside down.
Yeah, chart's upside down.
Chart was upside down. So what's going on? What's going on with grains today? Because they looked promising last week.
Corn, yeah, and we'll do this the VFO, and we'll see how it sounds. We'll try it. There's some traveling in the summer, and we'll see how it sounds. But the corn, so we had a brief reprieve on Friday of not going down every day. And what happened is oil was up, $5-6? Middle East was, just the tensions were roaring. Big bombings overnight, Israel and Iran, which I'm sure everybody's heard about. And things were looking like, hey, this is something that could have put a bottom in every. I was thinking that on Friday. I certainly didn't act on it because it's so weak. It's just like the weekend's going to be tension filled, and it was, and there was a lot more going on, and it looks like oil's going to open up on Sunday night, and it did, and then everything faded. OPEC says they're going to open up the spigots and offset anything that Iran is short, and the oil fell $3 a day. I didn't use that dip to buy some micros for guys that were kind of interested in the oil market, and then we were able to get a couple bucks out of that. Some guys are in the big contracts when they're in oil, and some guys are in the medium ones. But with all this volatility, micros seem to be the play today. But corn, down, 12 today at one point in July? And it's the same
down
market.
10 or so?
Yeah, same exact market as we've had. I mean, there's just nothing different. They started selling this thing in February, and they really haven't let up. Last week, I think, was the first net positive that they actually bought corn on the week instead of net sold it. And that's the funds position, the big heavy hitters, the players. So it just right back to where we started from. We're headed towards $4 futures in September corn. Just unheard of for all this at this time of year. It's probably one of the most disappointing summers that I've seen. It just has no legs under it. You had that great news, which we'll talk about next, for soybean and soybean oil, but just no let up on the corn and wheat. One day it's going to stop, but it hasn't so far.
It has been crazy. Yeah, soybeans, 100% different. So report Thursday, beans were down a little. Friday, we had everything was kind of up because you talked about the Middle East, but beans were way up on Friday, like almost 30 cents, wasn't it? And that was not because of Middle East tensions. Why were beans up on Friday?
The big biodiesel, that goes back to that Trump tweet a while ago where he insinuated we're going to use a lot of this, these big, beautiful crops at home. And this is probably part of that plan. It looks like very good numbers for 26, 27. I don't have the numbers in front of me, nor does it matter, other than the trade really liked it. Are we going to have the capacity to crush all these beans? Of course, that's really bad news for meal, and that's been the loser. You crush a lot of beans, and there's going to be too much meal around. So we should probably start a hog operation here. It seems like a good plan with all this extra meal. But no, that's the one bright spot, and that really did change beans. Beans actually followed through today, went down, and then came back. The funds hadn't wanted to have been short beans either the whole time. It's almost like they knew this answer, not to stir the pot. But they've never really been interested in this short, and then the announcement finally came out. There's more to come that could change things, but at least we have that positive. and it's a market that isn't going down every day, that will support corn eventually. But I still think we're dealing with a wider fallout of South America. We talked about this the other day. We had the 2019 crop just not able to get planted. The USDA never owned up to it, even though we had 19 million prevent plant acres. That set off the chain reaction. By 2020, we didn't have any corn left, even though on paper we had 3 billion. By springtime, we were as tight as we've seen in corn in a long time. And then we had the Russian-Ukrainian war. That's really how we got corn elevated. Ever since then, we've been in a slow decline, and now it's finally culminating into what's going to probably be a really low, I think. And I think we're going to find it early summer. It's got to get to where it needs to go to, but it's still part of the larger problem that we've been talking about, South America production. Where are all these bushels going to go? You go on Twitter, everybody's saying it's not growing well. We need more heat units. This is not going to be 181. I mean, but you hear this talk every time this time of year, no matter what. You're going to have replants. You're going to have, I've been hearing a lot on that. You're going to have your problem areas. Southern Minnesota got way too much rain. But the bottom line is, it just is a market that needs to get to a price that works for everybody. Like, we can compete, we can make money at it. We got to go too low to get all that demand back. But that's what we're doing right now, and we have that demand, and we're still going down. That's what's so troubling about this market. But at least there's a little bit of ray of sunshine with beans. Hopefully that helps corn pretty soon, but it's just not the time of year that usually happens.
No, and we've talked about it in the past that corn won't move beans and wheat, but soybeans can move both of them.
Yes.
Wheat can move corn too. But it does seem seasonally, I did dig into some seasonal charts before I hit the road this morning. It does seem this time of year that beans do tend up a little and corn does tend down a little from a seasonal perspective as well. So I don't know if you know why or what the reason for that seasonal would be. But
usually you have some sort of scared run up, and what we would normally be doing this time of year is working on hedges and making lots of calls, and when we get to these levels, this is what we're going to do. When let's sell some calls. There's a lot of rain in the forecast. There's a lot of premium there, and you're working hard in this time period to make sure that you're capturing better prices, and still not trying to take too much risk. You have to see a little more weather, and then usually there's rain in the forecast for pollination, and the market falls. That's what you normally would see, and you're running down into that time frame. So if you go on Twitter, of course, everyone's theory is that we ran down into this time period. Now we have to go higher because we went down first instead of we should have gone up. The seasonals are going to be opposite this year. I guess I tend to agree a little bit. I think corn's going to see an early low here, but where do we go from here? The weather's awfully good. We got crop ratings coming out here pretty soon. And, there's just no catalyst to get these guys out of these markets. So is there opportunity there? That's what we should really talk about. Is there opportunity on the long call side in corn or the long call side in wheat? You look at those premiums. I don't know if you've seen them, Ryan. The premiums in corn are really cheap.
They are. I've been eyeing them up. I just... as not a producer, it's hard for me to look at those numbers. As a producer, we've been talking courage calls since, February?
Yeah, these are very cheap.
And they wouldn't have paid off till now. And maybe they won't now, but are you watching March calls, or what are you watching?
Well, we're looking for a reason to get involved, and there hasn't been one, and that's been the major issue.
Yeah,
is that it went in pretty quick. Yes, they're cheap, but you don't need to spend 9 cents on something, 15 cents out of the money, and waste 9 more cents if a market gets sold every day. But will it change, and will it change fast? And is it eventually going to be worth it to where you're selling these courage calls and you're very, very happy? You're happy that you're selling this stuff because you have those courage calls on, and it got, quickly it gets to 460, but then fades right away. So what do you do with that kind of market? What is everybody doing? Hunkering down, hoping for the best. I think that is the number one strategy. Is everybody's out in the field trying to stay busy, not think about this stuff. And the thought process is if it's under the cost of production at this time of year, what's the point in doing anything? And I tend to agree. I mean, not that it can't fall, but it's just all danger on all sides right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
You mentioned in talking about beans, though, we should jump to where there hasn't been I mean, we should have a meat operation, huh? I mean, we should be buying this meal and buying corn and throwing it in some sort of livestock. What's going on with hogs?
Well, you read it gets scary. Like if you all of a sudden have everybody dumping meal in the market when you hit these numbers for biodiesel, and then they're dumping, there's already cheap feed, you got cheap wheat, you got cheap corn, you got cheap everything. And then you throw a bunch of cheap meal on top of that. That's going to be a recipe for a very tough corn rally because competition in feeds. So what are they going to do with all of it? You've heard a lot of different things. They're going to train it here to Canada and, all the hog operations up there. And boy, is it hard to start a barn in Minnesota. I had a client that was trying to start that. There's some compliance things you got to get through nowadays and EPA things. But it's that is something I'm not interested in. That is something that I know a lot of guys that are in the industry. It's a tough industry, but at least hogs, they're 112. I mean, at least they're getting paid now. Right. But somebody's going to figure out what to do with it and make a lot of money. I don't know if we can do it, though. I don't want meal sitting around. And it doesn't keep. That's another thing.
You got to have a lot of hogs to shove it in quick.
Yeah, maybe put some fences up and have some free-range hogs.
I love it.
I think they already have those.
There you go. Fence in your cornfield and just put the hogs out there.
Nothing pays, and that's the problem in U.S. eggs. And we hate to be negative about it, but you just wake up on this Monday and then there's nothing but disaster again. And it's just not a market we're normally used to at all. We haven't seen this. We don't usually see this. You have something come up, you have better prices, or you're at least falling from somewhat profitable prices. And we're not doing anything we'd normally be doing this time of year, which tells me we'll probably have a busy July and August and September when things usually quiet down. But, it's just such an odd year. No one's interested in the markets because they just simply go down every day, and you're not cheering for it to go down. So it's a tough sell for producers to get involved. Yeah, like I say, hey, let's buy a call in case something we don't know happens, and let's waste another 10 cents we don't have to burn. And then let's sell some volatility. Oh, wait, the volatility is not there either, so there's nothing but risk there. Then you sit on your hands and watch it go down every day, and you wish you were short. The second you do that, you know exactly what happens. And we saw a little bit of that on Friday. Things can change really quick. And I genuinely thought that they were on Friday at least going to be supportive into this week. And it can't even last 2 days. And that's how disappointing these markets are.
It's really something. I mean, and really across the board. I've been watching the stock market a lot. The indices there, the Dow, and the Dow's got volatility right now, but good luck deciding which way it's going to go at which minute right now. And really the same with crude.
Yeah, the whole thing is that the retail guys, the smart money is getting out, the small retail guys are getting in, meaning the guys in the golf course that have a little bit too much money and they like to talk hot stocks. Those are the guys that are buying. And they're saying that the hedge funds and the smart guys are actually getting out. So we'll see if that's true. See if they're let them hold the bag here. But there's a NASDAQ seasonal here starting on 6/11, which was 5 days ago, and it goes to mid-July, and that's actually 15 out of 15 years. So there's a weak seasonal in the stock market, but you got shook on Friday and then got all its gains back, and it just looks like that old stock market that we saw. Metals we've been talking about, they've been on a nice track here. They got a little nervous on Friday. So it feels like I should be involved in these markets, or I should be long crude oil because Middle East war is starting, and then none of it works. You'll get your metal pullbacks. Nothing's really smooth. Even cattle's gotten very tricky now, and we should quickly talk about cattle. We had cash come. The North and the South cash are very close to each other, so the futures are still well discounted at at least $9 minimum, but we're starting to square up up? And is this the top of the cash cattle market? That's what everybody wants to know. We'll keep you updated in the insights on that, what we think is going to happen there. But back to the indexes and the metals. So it's, why don't we just buy the indexes? Why don't we just buy the metals? I mean, you certainly can, but everything comes with risk. And that, I think that's the problem people don't like, is that you got to stick your neck out to earn anything so far, and then it's so punishing. You get some money, you got to take it. You don't know whether to stay with it or go long. So it looks easy on paper, and it's just not been an easy trade because there's been some pretty nasty swings in silver. There's been a lot of nasty swings in platinum. Gold's been a lot smoother, but still a healthy correction there. So even the easy markets have now gotten a little tougher. And are we just going to accelerate inflation, or is the stock market about done? We don't have answers for any of this, and that's really what's making the market more difficult to get involved in.
Right. Yeah, I don't like to call any market easy, but if there's one that tends to trend, it's usually going to be we're usually looking at interest rates, and even interest rates, holy cow, like all over the board. Oh, they're not massive moves. Well, there have been massive moves, I guess, with the volatility from the war, but I don't even know which way to go there. Like, what's going to happen? No one does. What's going on?
No one has any idea where short-term stuff's headed. You hear rumors that they're going to have to slash it. Then Trump and Powell get in a fight, and it doesn't look like they're ever going to cut rates. They're probably going to raise rates. Inflation doesn't appear to be cooling off too fast, although some staples have. But, you try to build anything, and you're going to find the construction costs or hiring any labor is going to cost you a pretty penny. So none of that stuff's going down yet. But you're starting to see some markets soften, and down in Texas and Florida, you've seen housing markets soften, but no clarity on anything. I do like the one guy that I was reading. He thinks that when interest rates go down, home prices are actually going to drop quite a bit. And I didn't make sense to me right away, but then I read, the idea is that there's a lot of people trapped in their house. Their kids have grown up, they have too big a house, or they want to move, and they can't because they like that interest rate that they have, that low 2 point something, or maybe 3 at the highest. So who wants to move to 7%? Nobody. So once that goes down, or if it goes down, is everybody going to want to sell at once, and there's all these inventories? That's what it seems like, because we're in a smaller town, and Fergus doesn't have a lot of inventory for sale, and it hasn't for quite some time, and that just feels like no one wants to make a move, and we're stuck in this cycle. So yeah, that you throw that on the pile of no one knows where that's going. I've talked to bankers, and they, they're asking me. I said, I thought you should know. And the mortgage broker we work with here in the office, we talked to him, and there's no clarity in that industry. Everybody's just taking it day by day. But nobody knows the direction of interest rates, which makes it really hard for business or really planning anything out in any length of time. So another market that is a mystery to us.
Yeah, I'm glad we're the experts on the markets, and that we can share all kinds of insights here and provide a lot of clarity for the markets on this episode.
We've been sitting on our hands a lot, and that's, I think, the right move here. Sure, guys are participating. There's a guy in oats, or there's like we did some micro crudes today, which is not much, but still in volatility, you can make a few $100. You certainly can go the other way on you too. It's not this automatic thing. I just figured, with a good dip, everybody bought on Sunday night, and then by morning we're regretting that. And so you just take it day by day and just baby steps, just like what's that movie with Bill Murray? What about Bob? Baby steps is the way to take this market. So tomorrow I'll buy corn calls if it looks like there's a reason to buy corn calls. Yeah. Is there? Currently we've been talking a lot about the corn puts. Corn's been going down. The puts gain a little bit, but nothing really is making good money in this market besides the shorter term positions. And like I say, sometimes the best move sitting on your hands. The markets will change. There will be clarity. And things always rebound to the way they were. It's just a really tough zone that we're in because of no summer rally. Seasonals didn't work like they would normally work, and it's just tougher than it would normally be.
Yeah. Well, there's action now though, versus a couple weeks ago. It was we're sitting on our hands because there wasn't action. So
Yep. Yeah, Friday really does change things, and that's not over, and that'll be we just don't know. Obviously nobody's cheering for war, so we'll see if it de-escalates, escalates, but it's going to affect commodities a lot. I'm surprised there wasn't more calls today. I thought guys would be very interested in oil, but I guess everybody has their news on all the time now, so they're probably tired of news. They want to hear more news.
Right.
But beans really, though, usually after you get a move like that, like in beans, you get some calls, and there was some calls today, but they want to know, is it going to keep going? Is it the real deal? And it is the real deal for sure. It's just going to take a longer time frame than a couple weeks. They're not going to turn all these beans into biodiesel overnight. But no, usually there is, but I think you got a lot of disengagement. Guys are worried about the farm and the expenses and these poor prices, and they're just not in the mood to talk about it. Is really what happens in these kind of moments. Corn goes down every day. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
We guys are used to it. It's no different for wheat than any other time, but the corn guys are not enjoying this.
Right. No, I wouldn't either.
No, but the one market, hogs and cattle, those guys are having a good time, and they deserve it, especially in cattle. So we have good news there, but sometimes, and we've talked about it the last few episodes, the best move is sitting on your hands and waiting for more clarity, and these just seem like those markets.
Right. Well, John, I'm just heading into an area I know is a dead zone, so we better wrap it up here before you're cut off without wrapping up. But you want to leave a number, how they get a hold of you? And
sure.
We'll be back in the studio for the Insider on Thursday.
Yes, and I'll be doing the all the daily updates, which you'll hear tomorrow. So if you want more information, want to hear us more, 218-731-1578.
Thanks, John.
Yep, no problem. Bye. It's just still really, really bad markets. I'm just saying that. These are honestly as hard as it gets, wildly unpredictable.